I'm going to do a little segment comparing Australia's debt to America's debt, and you'll come to understand why America's so deep and why there's liable to be some sort of a collapse. Now in Australia, at the moment, we have about 145 billion of debt. Now if we divide that by a population of 23.5 million, it works out about $6,170 per person. Now when you take into account that you know, the working man may have dependents such as his wife and 2 kids, and of course he's got to pay for himself, plus maybe one of his retired parents. There's probably 5 people, including himself, that he's got to cover. Now that means that he's got to cover about $30,850 of expenses, and say if he also has to pay for some welfare cheat, dole bum, whatever you want to call it, he'd have to pay about $37,020. Now this annoys a lot of people that we've got into this amount of debt, and you say, well, 145 billion is nothing. Well, when you hear about, let's say, Aboriginal boarding schools built to house 250 to 300 kids to get them away from the society that's falling apart in some of these Aboriginal areas, and look, quite simply, they had 10 kids there the first day, 7 kids there the second day. The next week they had 3 kids there on Monday and Tuesday. They closed the doors on this joint. It's never been used since. It cost us $10 to $13 million to build it, and it got used for a total of about 7 days. This is money wastage that we get annoyed by, to then turn around and realise that we're under debt. Now, let's have a look at the US deal. I'm told it's 17 trillion, yes, have a look at those figures. $17 trillion over around about 300 million people. Now, I may have overestimated the amount of people, but in that case, that means you just got to pay less. And, you know, the debt figure is another one that may be a little bit overestimated, a bit if I've overestimated the people, then it sort of all evens out. But essentially, it's $56,666 per person. Now this is interest free. You still got to pay interest on this, remember. That works out that if you're got to pay for you, your wife, your 2 kids, and one of your retired parents, your share is $283,330 in taxes that they've got to take from you. And if you're also paying for some welfare cheat, some white trash blimmin' whatever, then it brings it to $339,996 per person before interest is charged. Now, if you don't know a lot about home loans, I can tell you that apparently home loans, if you buy a house for say $100,000, over here they're a lot dearer than that, but essentially speaking, if you have a 25-year mortgage on your house, whatever your house cost is, you get that, and you times it by 2.5, and that will be the total cost of the mortgage over this 25-year life of the mortgage. So, you know, a house that may be worth, okay, I'll get into realistic Australian terms here, some houses are worth $2.5 million, $500,000, plenty of them worth 300,000, there's enough worth $500,000. So that means that at the end of the day, people end up paying out $1.5 million on a house mortgage here. Now that's just the price of houses in Australia. But you get this, all that, and times that by 2.5. Do you think your taxes are going to actually pay for that? You really think that when there's so much unemployment in the United States, that when there's, you know, Obama's talking about the minimum wage being lifted to $9 an hour, well hell, the minimum wage here is $15.50. You know, and with wages like that, and the way the economy is just sliding downhill, and you know China's doing everything for you, you think you can cover that? You personally feel that you could cover those sort of figures, times it by 2.5 to cover the interest? Now you know how much shit America's in.